This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Carbonite. Coming up, they've gone and rebooted another classic game and turned it into a first-person shooter. Today, we check out Syndicate.
And welcome to the Totally Rad Show. We've got a great week for you. You are going to see content from our wayward traveler, Mike, going to talk to the stars of John Carter at the end of the show. But we are waiting.
Very exciting.
All week. We are waiting on the review to John Carter because of GDC. Jeff Cannata is going to be right now, currently, up in the Bay Area finding all this great information that he will be sharing with you soon about the video game world. So we thought we would just wait until you came back, saw the movie, then we can all review it finally. So Monday of this week, today exactly, we're going to be talking about the new Syndicate game, the first-person shooter reboot of a not first-person shooter,
right?
Syndicate.
And then tomorrow we're talking TV. We're talking Little People, Big Funny.
Ooh.
With Life is Too Short from Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant.
That's right. On Wednesday, we are finally going to put our hands on the PS Vita.
Ooh.
Let you know how it feels.
Tactilian.
Front and the back.
Thursday, we're finally getting around to our Oscar wager results program. Drum roll, please.
And then Friday, it's a little secret identity.
Called Secret Identity.
Did I bury the lead?
Yeah.
Are you Mr. Freeze?
Amazing. We want to thank Alex Trott for the background.
Who,
amazing.
of course, we all know is a slower version of Alex Run.
Yes. And Alex
Or a
Trebek
horse.
trips him. Or a horse. If you'd like to have your background featured on the show, please feel free to send it to fans at totallyradshow.com. Let's get into the show, shall we, gentlemen?
We shall. Back in 1993, a little game was released called Syndicate onto PCs. It was an isometric, tactical, role-playing game, basically action strategy game, and it was a kind of a cult hit. Fast forward to today, it kind of lay dormant, that franchise, for a while, and now we have a new Syndicate game. Of course, because it's based on this property, we want to have things reminiscent. Oh, it's a first-person shooter. So we've got...
maybe there's a really rich RPG, but there's some talent specs, but not.
Yeah, no, it's a first-person shooter. Like a lot of these games, old franchises that are getting remade into first-person shooters lately. XCOM similarly, although we are getting real XCOM.
Yeah.
I should say real.
Ooh. Zing!
But even, what was that?
I think I know what you're saying.
Several games.
Well, like Shadowrun?
Shadowrun is
Yeah.
what I was trying to think of, actually. So, Starbreeze Studios, the studio that gave us Chronicles of Riddick and...
the Chronicles of Narnia, a lot of the Chronicles
all
games.
the Chronicles games.
Chronicle.
Didn't they do the First Darkness?
They did the First Darkness,
Yeah.
yeah. They've come together and done this version of Syndicate, and it is a first-person shooter. It's got co-op. It's got it uses that cyberpunk setting that Syndicate's known for, and throws you into a world in which corporations rule, and agents who are hired by these corporations all have chips in their neck, and you can use your chip to have certain powers over the universe. You can overload other people's chips and cause them to commit suicide and do all kinds of crazy stuff. So you got this overlay that comes off. So you got, it's a really interesting cybernetic fiction. Dan, do you agree?
I was blown away by Syndicate. I was expecting very little.
It's
for
weird.
no
It's a kind
other
of
reason, just
under
because
the radar kind of game.
Just
yeah.
because I didn't hear of any buzz about before, and I played the demo and was complete, which is basically the co-op game. I was complete. It threw me. It didn't start me at the beginning of the level in the demo. It just sometimes multiplayer games do that where you can just join the match as it's happening, and I was like, what is going on? I had no idea. That being said, this game is mostly awesome, but there's some awful in it. The awesome outweighed the awful by far to me, and there's only one aspect that's awful. I will get to that. What is awesome? The graphics I thought were striking. Funny how I just said off camera I was saying I really want the next generation. But like I was shocked that the graphics were so strong. I love
It's got
how
really
it
interesting
looks
stuff,
too.
especially in comparison to something we saw recently like Deus Ex. For
sure.
Revolution.
Yeah.
This is similar, but
I would describe this as an arcade version of Deus Ex. I prefer playing this to Deus Ex. Deus Ex is a much deeper game, but this was far more fun. I loved, whereas in Deus Ex, all the abilities were like more health, more ammo, more, I never really felt the cool effects of them. I loved the abilities in this game. They do really cool things. They really enhance first-person shooter gameplay. You can be a little strategic as you're playing, which is really cool. But in ways that are like no other first-person shooter that I've played. Mass Effect does that a little bit. It adds abilities to enhance gameplay. The third-person shooter. But it's not the same. It's totally different. It's not force powers. It's not like mage. It's not like Mass Effect has very much in common with traditional role-playing games and their powers. These are really fun powers. The co-op game, tons of fun. A little bit Left 4 Dead-y, and like it makes you work as a team to bear through an onslaught of enemies. But there's fun things.
Onslaught's no joke.
Yeah. So I had a blast. The awful part was the difficulty level on the normal setting. I died a lot. Respawns are great. They're right wherever. It's not like a chore to go back. But it's just I died so much. I did not want to die. I wonder if you guys, maybe I'm a poor player. You did. Okay, thank God. But like, I don't know what's. It wasn't fun. Like stuff was happening. It was so awesome, and I love the set. There are lots of awesome set piece moments. And I would say, as you were talking about being cyberpunky, I think it's more, if this means anything to you, I think it's more Philip K. Dick than William Gibson. It really, it looks, it has the Minority Report blues, but it just, as a story, because it's less cerebral and more like, it's an action adventure take on that.
Garnet was calling it cyber foo, which I think is kind of...
Yeah, sure.
Close enough.
Sure, Garnet, sure. No, but you know what I mean?
I wasn't 100% behind that.
I don't know, Jeff. That sounds like you were really pushing for that.
So yeah, just the difficulty level was wrong, I thought.
Yeah. I also enjoyed this game. The sounds and the weight of the weapons were awesome. Each gun really felt awesome.
And it had sort of like resistance-esque,
Well,
like the tagging gun.
Yeah, but sort of. And that was my one little gripe, which is we're in the frickin' future. You've got chips in your head. You're gonna have more than shotgun, sniper rifle, pistol.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a couple, but where are the super nuclear Tesla weapons?
Or the Minority Report gun that shoots
anything.
People.
You know what I mean? So that was a little like, all right, let's up the weapon ante. And I did truly enjoyed a lot of the sort of powers that you get and the way to do. My biggest thing with this game was the whole time I played this game, I just kept feeling like I've played this game like 9 times.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Like but like when we're playing Kingdoms of Amalur, but I don't think so because I've played the game where you force somebody to commit suicide. I've played the game where you take control of somebody and shoots his friends. I've played the game where you
do
get
what
behind.
Game?
I can't even remember. Like I think Psychonauts even had like control one guy and shoots everybody. There's so many games.
Well, I mean, but like Battlefield 1, World War 3, they're all this is like okay.
Yes. And when I'm playing those games, I don't feel like I've played this game 9 times. With this game, I really just the whole time I was like, this is really fun.
The story
I feel
is generic.
like maybe, but I really just sort of had this one sort of feeling. Look, it's a fun game. It is a fun game, and I had fun. I agree. The difficulty is way too high on normal setting, unless
you can't go back
there
and
is a
change it
choice. Unless there is a style of playing that the people who made this want me to do, but they had not intelligently described that to me. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes there are games
They didn't feed you into a certain play
like
style.
Gears of War. If you don't slam up against cover and pop out and shoot, you're gonna get your ass handed to you. That's not how you're supposed to play Gears of War. Right. So maybe there is a way to play this game that they just didn't tell me how to do. But I had the same thing where like moments where I would just die 7, 10, 11 times, finally get through it, and then there was good chunks where I was like, oh man, I'm ripping through people. But I just really had this feeling of like, I've been here before. I feel like this is a game. I feel like this is a game that we reviewed 2 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I see.
That's my only problem.
I really see what you're saying there. I think that they weren't trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's solid. It's just not.
Yeah.
Especially compared to the other Starbreeze games, where I thought both of them exceeded expectations in a really both the ones
Unique
we
way,
mentioned, and did things in a way that no one else had really done before. And I think that there's a lot to like here. And I agree with you both that there's a lot to
And
like
I
here.
didn't do the co-op, which probably would have been mind-blowing for me, Mr. Co-op guy. You guys didn't have it. So
The co-op
I just
is
play with random. You can just play with random. I didn't play with anyone I knew.
The co-op is really
So,
interesting in the sense that it reminded me a lot of the Resistance 2 co-op that sort of felt like almost like an MMO raid battle.
It reminded
but
me
done,
of Terrorist Hunt in Rainbow Six Vegas.
Yeah.
Or Rainbow Six.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the last
Yeah,
couple.
it's not so much a like corridor going to the next story, but it's more like how are we going to defeat this, as you said, onslaught of lots of guys, and then ends with a big bad guy, boss kind of deal.
Right.
And that was a blast. I really had a good time playing it. It didn't feel as focused, and it didn't really lead me into the game in an effective way. It just was a fun side thing to do.
Yeah.
I really liked the fiction of the game. I really loved that world, that universe. It felt
And
like
the voice acting is amazing. I mean, we have Brian, what's his name?
Brian
Brian
Cox.
Cox,
Yeah.
and
as Brian Cox.
as Brian Cox. Well, and the chick, God, what's her name?
Yeah. I remember thinking the whole time, I was like, wow, they really got, because I didn't look it up, but I was like, it has to be those people, right?
It is, yeah.
And I loved how the world felt realistic. You have a lot of these overlays, like you know your cybernetic overlays, like give you information about stuff. Even though you can't touch any of it or do anything
It
to
was
it,
a little
it's still-
distracting for me. It was cool at the beginning, and then I was like, don't pop something
augmented
up that I
reality.
can't
It's
do
like,
anything
it's like
with.
you had
cool.
augment. Yeah, I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And so I liked that universe and feeling like those augmentations really did something. I agree with you that the tactics of how I would handle a situation based on my
What you had up?
my layout, my loadout, excuse me, of powers was really fun. It just, as you said, it didn't elevate to must play kind of special experience. It just kind of felt solid to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think I had much more fun playing Deus Ex. I enjoyed that game much more. It's a very
I
different
feel like
kind
this
of game.
is a bad time for a game like this to be coming out right before Mass Effect 3, which
I
is
was
just going to be like,
just about to say
why
that.
would
I'm
you
sure-
pick this up if you're
Yeah,
gonna-
we're just reviewing this now, and Mass Effect is now hitting. But
it's not. It's sort of sucks.
know it's
for-
a different-
Afterwards, you're like, why bother? I'm playing 50 hours a month. I mean, like, there's not.
No,
really
that's
good
what I
time unless
mean.
It's like
It's-
a year from now.
yeah,
Well,
but if it had been something really
that's true,
special, I think we would have all been saying, "Oh my
I
gosh,
kind
don't
of feel
let this
that
miss."
it's just if you play on easy, I think it is that. I really think there's so many more games. I know what you guys are saying, but I feel like that the comment of it's generic. Like I feel like so many other games demand that critique, whereas this game. It's a little bit like, but I feel like this does far more to innovate the gameplay than most other first-person shooters that we all kind of enjoy, that are good games, that are solid games. I feel like, but the difficult.
Yeah.
Like you would have felt the.
didn't really
I think
get
you would have
that
felt
so
the
much.
ride a bit more. You would have felt the enjoyment if there wasn't that like e-brake that gets pulled on to you every
maybe.
minute.
Yeah.
Every other room. Anyway.
I hate the other room.
Syndicate. I
Syndicate.
want a tactical version.
All right, everybody, be sure to stick around. We sent Mikey off to Arizona to talk with some of the stars from the new John Carter movie from Disney, right? Isn't it Disney?
Yeah.
Anyway. But first, we want to thank our sponsors. Carbonite protects your pictures and your other files from your computer crash, theft, fire, or when you accidentally delete a file by automatically and continuously backing up your files and keeping them securely
What about my pictures?
off-site. Pictures, other files, everything's there. Wow. You'll never have to remember to back up again, whether you have 1 or 2 computers at home, several computers in your small computer business. Carbonite is the better backup plan. Over 1 million customers trust Carbonite to protect their home and small business computer files with plans starting at just $59 a year. Let that sink in. That was a year, not a month. A year.
Sunk in.
You start your free trial at carbonite.com with the offer code TRS, and you'll get a bonus 2 bonus months if you decide to buy. That's carbonite.com and enter the offer code for 2 bonus months. TRS. Amazing. Send in your background.
Yes.
Send in your
you
background.
should do that.
Fans of Totally Rad Show. Also, head over to jinx.com/TRS and get your TRS swag.
And other
while it's
files.
hot. And other files.
Join us tomorrow for our review of the TV show Life's Too Short. 100 years ago, a man by the name of Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote a series of books that really kind of influenced the sci-fi genre for a century. Well, now it's 2012, and we've got a movie called John Carter. Star Wars, Star Trek, all of them have John Carter to thank. I got a chance to be here on Mars or Arizona, to take a look at the movie and to interview the cast and director, Andrew Stanton. So John Carter it's been 100 years since this story has been written, and has been such an influence on the sci-fi genre as a whole. So with that on your shoulders, how do you...
I never saw it on my shoulders. I actually felt it was the other way around. Nobody was remembering it and was about to go into obscurity forever. And I felt like I was catching it just before it went down the sewer grate, you know? and so I feel like it wasn't pressure, it was more of obligation of just like, let's put this on the screen before everybody forgets. So any pressure I had was just my own fan pressure of like hoping that I would be able to get it, you know, above water. It's got a very unique, romantic, historic thing of the past feel to it when you read it, and nobody's ever captured that and done exactly that property. It's like feeling like you're hearing like the Xeroxy echo of a Beatles songs, and nobody's ever heard the original music. And I just felt like this is not like anything else, even though people think it might be for all the inspirations it might be. So I had complete confidence it could fit in the canon. It just, would somebody get it up there? I was worrying that, like, after seeing it almost be made like 4 or 5 times in the span of like 3 years, and every studio was dropping, I'm like, it's just gonna like start looking like it's cursed, like nobody should touch it.
Well, now your time at Pixar, working with completely original content, and this based on a long series of books, and then jumping to live action directing. Was that a huge transition?
I mean, I didn't know what it would be like either, but that was part of the attraction. It turned out not to be easy, but a little easier because there was already a starting point. I didn't have to make up stuff from scratch. There was already 11 books of description of who these people were and what this place was like. It was a huge asset. And so I could kind of pick and choose, like going to the grocery store. But once I got all those kind of details, it was the same heavy lifting. I had to figure out, how do you keep people interested? How do you make there be character growth? How do you make these relationships all work? How do you make the 3-act structure work? Suddenly you're just back to square one like you would be with anything else. Going into live action, I knew it would be completely different, but I felt like I've been watching how movies get made my whole life. I'd made movies, Super 8 movies with my friends when I was a kid. I kind of missed that sort of run and gun feel. And I really felt like I knew half the equation, because I knew half this movie would be an animated movie, and that was totally familiar territory. And it's exactly what it turned out. There's more animated shots in this than in Finding Nemo. I mean, it was making an animated movie plus making a live action movie. So it was daunting, but not completely foreign.
Now, your collaboration with Michael Giacchino on the score, there's a little history there with Pixar. How was it like working with Michael Giacchino?
Well, it's very comfortable because, like I said, I never worked with him on any of my films, but he's Pixar family, so I felt like I'd known him for years. And to suddenly work professionally was kind of interesting to come at it from that direction. Usually it's you work with them and you become friends. It just ended up being kismet because, you know, he and I are the same age practically, and we had the same influences growing up. We were both soundtrack geeks, and we could almost sort of just do shorthand about, it's like this track from this score of this composer. And he's never been allowed to just truly get his space opera adventure geek on and just go for the leitmotif. And man, he was able to go for it on this film. And I said, I haven't felt like this since when I bought the double LP of Star Wars when I was a kid and just couldn't stop playing it.
And what was your collaboration with him like? Was it from the very beginning of the development of the movie?
Very early on, And you know, he's a busy guy, so he was always doing other things, but he was always checking in. He's also incredibly fast, so he would demo stuff, and then right there in the moment, you know, we wanted to change things, we'd try other things, and he does this unique thing where he actually writes an overture before he gets started, just to see if does it feel like the movie, and he's not so attached to it, so you can literally go, oh, I love that, oh, I don't love that, and nobody's offended. It's a really smart way to work.